you asked for this conversation, James. Do you want to just give the backdrop of what you want to talk about?
We've got a show coming up in about 6 weeks, and we saw that video we posted, and we did some simulation, and we worked out that if Pete and I come here today and show some empathy, some sympathy, we might get about another 700 people through the doors.
Something like
by
that,
looking like we're compassionate people, and that. So we thought we'd give it a go.
I think the post you're referring to, I started it with something like the strength in vulnerability. So what had happened was my business had seen a shift, downturn. Things started getting difficult overnight, and I was just stressed, and that anxiety build up that you get going to bed at night. And I thought, I'm just going to talk to a camera about how difficult business really is.
For me, the challenges that I found were, and the stress and anxiety I was around, fear of failure. I took over running a business in 2008 that had been going for 40 years. I was just running around trying to keep all these plates spinning.
I had a massive inherent fear of failure. So for context, I went to school one Friday morning, and when I came back, my mum was dead.
It's the fear of people looking at you as a failure. That's always been my issue. What do you want the viewers to take from this?
Come to the PPOA show on the 22nd of September.
How do we normally start? We just normally chat, don't we?
You asked me.
Yeah. What? No, we did the quick five. We're not going to do them today.
This is serious.
Who would play you in a film of your life? I said Martin Clunes for me because my missus wishes I look like him, which is not flattering.
When I met her the other week, that's the first thing she mentioned.
Yeah.
Probably Leslie Nielsen.
Who?
There's a Naked Gun.
Naked Gun, the original Naked
He's
Gun.
too young. He's too young. You can't crack. That's the thing. We can't crack too many jokes. We are quite old.
Airplane as well, isn't it?
Airplane as well. He knows. Yeah. He
Shocking,
knows.
Yeah, we'll start with the introductions then. Just a quick one-liner. Who you are? What do you do?
James Gilsbrook, Managing Director of Grunwald Limited and Finance Director of Automate UK.
I'm Peter Williamson, Executive Chair at Automate UK.
Should I introduce myself? It's my channel.
I did. You probably ought to.
Yeah, Tom Flood, co-founder of Engineers Insight, do all this sort of stuff. You asked for this conversation, James. Do you want to just give the backdrop of what you want to talk about?
We've got a show coming up in about 6 weeks, and we saw that video we posted, and we did some simulation, and we worked out that if Pete and I come here today and show some empathy, some sympathy, we might get about another 700 people through the doors.
Something like
by
that,
looking like we're compassionate people, and that. So we thought we'd give it a go. Anything to get people into the NEC at September, we'll take the opportunity. So we thought we'd piggyback off what you were doing and just see if we could do that. Or the serious answer. The serious answer is you touched on something that doesn't get spoken enough, and that is how difficult it is to run your own thing, and how it is both the most amazing thing you can do in the world, genuinely the most amazing thing you can do in the world, but for every point of amazement there is at least 2 points of jeopardy, of stress, of survival, and we don't talk about it enough. And if Peter and I are to be representative of kind of like the two of the biggest voices in the industry at the moment, people don't just need to see the Peter and I that was at the launch of Automate UK, where we were kind of a bit like that awful Lego film song of everything is awesome. We also need to tell them a little bit about what we were like 2 hours before in the hotel breakfast bar.
Yeah.
Basically in full-blown panic, thinking what we've done, have we done it right? So we're a bit duty-bound to spread that message, and you've touched on something. We need to be more open as an industry with its leaders and those trying to make a difference, that it's brilliant, but it is also very, very tough.
Yeah, I think the post you're referring to, I started it with something like the strength in vulnerability.
Yeah.
So what had happened was my business had seen a shift, downturn. Things started getting difficult overnight, and I was just stressed, and that anxiety build up that you get going to bed at night. And I thought, I'm just going to talk to a camera about how difficult business really is, because I mean,
that was a bit vain, right?
Well, it'd be worse if I just stood in front of the mirror doing it. So I put a TikTok out, and then my phone just blew up. Like 120,000 views of me just not crying, but of just talking about the reality of things like cash flow and hustle porn that kids watch on Instagram, and they think everything's Lamborghinis and influencers and everything comes easy. and the reality of it, that everything comes hard.
Yeah.
It's really difficult. That's why I put that post out, because the TikTok blew up, and then since then I've been posting every day on TikTok the same sort of thing.
Have you?
Yeah.
Do you know what TikTok is?
Yeah, as your kids, they might.
Sad thing is, even my kids are too old for TikTok now.
Yeah, but then the strength and vulnerability is that from that video, I've had so much outreach. Like, of course, we're doing this, but like even just on TikTok, that one video, I got 30 direct messages from business owners in the UK that are going through similar things.
Yeah.
That some of them are doing the same thing, vlogging their journey to try and help others. But hundreds of comments of people that just the support like that you don't get. You live in your own bubble.
Yeah.
Right? I've got a little office here in the house. I come out of there and we sit and have dinner. My wife, put the little one to bed.
Yeah.
And then it's still in my head. I'm still, you
Yeah.
you'd never offload it to anyone.
No, that's fair.
In all seriousness, the best thing about volunteering for the board of PPMA or Automate UK as it is now is that you've got 10 agony aunts, agony uncles that you can go and sit in a room with and talk about the challenges and the struggles that you have with your business, and they're people that are going through the same things as you. They know exactly how you feel, or they've been through it, or they're going to go through it at some point. And so having those conversations are really, really helpful. And the last 4 or 5 years, I think it's been exaggerated because you've had COVID, you've had Brexit, you've had the challenges that have happened since, like very recently with the Trump and the fun and games that we've had with his policy. People are really struggling and really suffering, and a lot of the businesses that are represented on the board at Automate, and obviously lots of our members are SMEs, right? And it's them alone in a room at night worrying about what's happening with their business, worrying, if they've got employees, they're worrying about whether they can pay their salaries and all those kind of things. And it's, as companies get bigger and you've got different people around the board and you've got people that you can talk to and share the information with and share the stresses with, it helps. But, a lot of our membership is made up of SMEs, and trying to create a space where they can communicate with each other and share their concerns and worries without, feeling like they're, giving their competitors an unfair advantage or that kind of thing. It's really difficult.
You do worry about putting that message out because you look vulnerable. You look like the easy target. So a lot of the stuff that I've put out, I haven't put on LinkedIn for a reason. Because I don't want the image of me failing to be the image that people see on LinkedIn. I'm happy to show a bit of vulnerability and the truth behind the reality of it, but there's still that wall up. Do you think that's why it's important actually for...
It's important we knock it down, because I'll be honest with you, probably 4 or 5 years ago, probably where Grumman was at pre-COVID, which wasn't bad, far from it, but where I was at professionally and being fairly new to the board at that point, probably wouldn't have this conversation right now, because you were kind of doing it and you didn't want your competition to get wind of it, or if it went wrong, you needed to kind of be seen to be employable. It doesn't really matter actually. Where we're at in our careers now makes it sound like old timers, doesn't it? But I don't mean that. I mean, you get to a point where you don't really care as much. You care in the right places is a better way of phrasing it, right? That means with what you've done, which I think is brilliant, it's right that kind of Peter and I are a bit more kind of relaxed in our skin than maybe we were a decade ago. Spread the message a bit that it is tough, but it is also brilliant. Let's not lose sight of that as well.
Yeah.
You also realise that you're not the only one going through it.
Yeah.
And that competition, you're thinking, a shark in me because I'm in a downturn.
Yeah.
They're probably having the same issues internally, the same stress at night, still worried about paying salaries.
Yes. Yeah. We lost the community spirit that was in COVID. I don't know how we managed to do that. It's not Automate's fault or PPMA as it was then, but I think one of the things I wish had kept going off the back of COVID was the community spirit.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is my COVID, we supported our competitors and they supported us, basically about who had an outbreak and who could get what bits. And wider community, I was borrowing air cylinders off of packaging machinery people, and we were lending them bits, we were lending them vans, we were lending them people. And I was kind of hoping that might keep on going, and whilst people are a bit more open to talk, that hasn't continued, and it's probably one of the missed opportunities from that change in 2020. It's a shame hasn't stayed.
Yeah. We're all sheltered though. You know, they've gone back into their own silos.
Yes,
they've closed the front door, and they've got that tunnel vision of how do I survive, how do I keep my business going.
Yeah.
Not worrying about a friend down the road anymore. Cash flow. Who wants to talk about cash flow? Because that's the thing that's killing me.
You're in robots, it's never a problem, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in an extremely fortunate position in that the businesses that I've run, it hasn't been, it hasn't been a challenge. I have worked with a number of businesses where cash flow has been a challenge through some of the coaching work that I do, and you can see literally, it's the biggest challenge and stress I think that people face within running their business. The fear of, are you going to be able to pay your staff? And I think that's what it appears to me is the biggest challenge that people have. It's you can keep suppliers that pay for a period of time. You can you can have a conversation with the tax man or whatever, but what you can't do is not pay your staff. That directly impacts their lives, and that's what sits on the shoulders of the SME business owner or manager, that you're very aware that the success of your business is what kind of pays people's mortgages and keeps food on the table.
Yeah.
I'd say cash flow is probably the toughest bit. When you tapped onto it, you know that. And there's two reasons why I'd say it's the toughest bit. We operate in a world we sell 1 in 20 things we quote, because we're very niche at Grumwald with what we do. And from doing the initial quote to selling a machine, 6 to 9 months. So all the costs on top of that. From getting the income on that sale, it's then over and quite often about another 18 months. Because we're doing big project things, we're big lumps of equipment. And then spares and service, which we do really well on, but we're stuck between this place of most of our suppliers want 30%. Grumwald, where Grumwald Central, we buy most of the stuff, are very flexible, and our payment terms with customers now will be an average of 90 days. And you actually give up and you do the 90 days because you'll get paid on day 89, 91, whereas fighting 60 days, you still get paid in day 80, you just waste a load of time in admin doing it. So cash flow it has been the toughest one since I started running it fully with Catherine and Sam in 2018. But what I'd also say on that is you've got to be careful that you don't get cash flow PTSD when it starts going right. Yeah. That you don't get too het up in sticking too many acorns under the tree and not developing your business. So I would say cash flow is the really scary one when it's not great, but it's also something that also niggles in your head even when it's going well. You agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think anything, cash flow is one of those things, but anything within your business that you have trauma from, where you go through a difficult period of time, it will influence your decision making for the foreseeable future after that, because it will be the thing that causes you the anxiety, the thing you want to avoid moving forward. And it might be, I had different triggers during my career with RAR that really I didn't want to go back to, and influenced my decision making and made me conservative and avoid certain decisions. A lot of people, that will be cash flow that does that, and they will always sort of put that extra layer of defence in there, and it might make them overly conservative, and it might mean they miss opportunities to grow and develop their business because they're too afraid to go back to where they were with that lack of cash flow by investing. Yeah.
If we assume most people that are going to be watching this are Automate members, you don't want to teach them to suck eggs, but James, in your position, you're in a completely different position with cash flow to me. Mine's quite a quick turn. Yeah. I can get myself out of the hole quickly. It's hard work, which I'm finding at the minute, but how do you actually plan for the overheads of 18 months waiting for the payment to arrive in the bank?
You've got to look at It's a gamble, actually. Yeah, I think it's gambling, right? But it's educated gambling. So actually, what you got to look at quite is it worth taking the cash flow hit for the greater gain and doing a risk assessment against that? The way I phrase that is we've done that several times because we know that if we deliver that asset at a customer site, we've got a rate of return off that asset with the customer for 15 years. So does it look individually, you almost look at every machine that you put in at a customer, you see it as a profit centre. And does that give the rate of return? And if it does, you soon get in a position that you use cash flow as almost your risk assessor, and you start making educated gambles, and you know when to do it. So you start, once you get over being scared of cash flow and you realise it is just your thing, and you are going to have to deal with that as well as that, you start using it as just a day-to-day barometer of whether this is worth doing it or not. Sounds easy, probably took me about 2-3 years to get in that situation. I think the other thing is as well is you always need to be looking from a cash flow point of view, what is the minimum amount you need next week, next month, however large you get. Don't lose sight on that, and don't lose sight on the fact that to achieve that, do anything. Within reason, obviously, but what I'd say on that is never lose sight that if there's 250 quid to be made by weighing in some scrap, that's 250 quid, however big you are.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure that you know what your minimum amount is you need to exist for the next week, for next month, and then when that calms down, never lose that, right? But then actually start using cash flow as your business assessor. Is it worth doing that for this project? Well, yeah, it is actually, because I'm going to have a bit of a dip whilst we put all in the project engineering investment in to get the machine successfully delivered. But actually, I'm then going to get, I don't know, 300, 400, 500,000 pounds worth of income off that machine being at the customer site for the next 15, 20 years.
I think there's something that we'll have to wait and see how it all pans out, but the policy that the government put forward around the SME plans and how they want to make these draconian long payment terms from larger organisations far harder to happen, and give smaller businesses much more certainty in terms of the speed at which they get paid. Obviously, our industry is heavily influenced by large supermarkets, large providers of FMCG goods. They have a lot of power in terms of their negotiating position. If the government genuinely does enforce these limited payment terms, it will massively improve the opportunity that our smaller businesses will have to manage and maintain their cash flow. If they structure their payment terms right on the projects they put forward, and hopefully they will get paid in 30, 60 days, and it will be a manageable process. Some horror stories that we hear of 180 days plus payment terms. It's just outright bullying by the larger organisations,
that all say they want to support the supply chain.
and you look at the small, and they're people that sit on groups of boards that have that support network around them, with people that they can talk to, and yet they're picking on the SME who's sitting there on their own, going, well, I want to grow my business, I want to take this business on, but at what cost? Yeah,
there's a cascade of bullying which you've got going on, and it starts with the end user, whether it's at the supermarket. This is me basically making sure no supermarket buys a grub again.
I did think that automates say all FMCG goods are bullies. I mean, that's clearly
No, but there's
a different angle.
Well, I mean, but it's a fact within our industry, and actually as the people that represent the SMEs within our industry, it is up to us to say, look, this practice, we're sitting here talking about the mental health and the stresses and strains that small business owners go through. Managing cash flow is one of them, and if their customers are not considering the impact that it has on the mental health by enforcing these pretty unpleasant and unfair payment terms, then it's not a good thing. We understand that there's business decisions and that they need to be made. But ultimately, it should be done in such a way that you consider the entire supply chain, and that you support it, and it's there. They're stable and they're there for the long term.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think it's something that has been shifting over a period of time. It was worse, you know, and it is better now than it has been, but it still could be better.
Yeah, no, it is getting better. But yeah, if you get to somebody who's making a robot integrator, a packaging machinery company, probably even worse for the processing guys who'll exist for like 3-4 big projects a year, they get the thin end of the wedge. You know, the payment terms kind of cascade down, or the performance criteria cascades down and gets to one of our members, and then so they're at the point of they've got these terms and conditions and they don't like them, but then what they've got coming off the other side is the cash flow stuff we're talking about, and that's where you get in this really toxic situation, which somehow I've never landed myself in, but that is luck. But we see too many other people who've got this coming down from the end user to the manufacturer to the person supplying the equipment. You will do this, and you've got somebody saying, well, damn the terms and conditions, because this means that I get £200,000 worth of cash flow. They get the instant hit of the cash, but they have probably just set themselves up to a set of terms and conditions, which means they will never be fully paid for the project. They'll probably get paid to 80-90%, but I mean, we know in what we do, it's not the biggest profit margin. By the time you make a system, it is not a big profit margin. It's a sustainable and repeatable profit margin, it's not big. So we see a lot of our members who get caught between the two positions of payment terms, you will do this, and I don't want to do this, but I've also got to pay this, so I'll take it on anyway and worry about it later. And actually the worry later becomes a much bigger thing.
Yeah.
I've seen so many good technical companies in our sphere since I started 25 years ago, forget about me being on the board, who've gone belly up because they got stuck in that trap.
And you know, our industry UK manufacturing and engineering is the same kind of almost across any industry. They generally tend to be driven by small, you know, it's small businesses that are the engine and the backbone behind it all. And they're set up by a technical person who has a very good idea, who understands their product, and has a lot of skills from that perspective, but doesn't necessarily have all the skills required to run a business. So naturally, that doesn't come as easy to them. So that's where they struggle, and they end up in this situation. They create this amazing product and this amazing service, but you know, 2 or 3 years down the line, they find themselves in a position where they're really struggling to develop and grow their business because they haven't put all the right nuts and bolts in and infrastructure in place to manage that.
Yeah. You touched on payment terms. There's probably a gap in the conversation that I can fill of someone that hasn't got a clue what they're doing, obviously. It's at the start of the business journey. And I just thought, I need orders, so I don't care what the payment terms are. I'm just going to accept anything because we're the new kid on the block. We need the big guys to work with us. And then I quickly found out that I'm such a small fish, or a small portion of the marketing budget that they were handing out every year. They didn't give a shit either. You know, they would ignore my email. The MD was, I'm just thinking of this one particular case that they were ignoring me for months. Yeah. In the end, I rang their PR agency and said, how do I get this paid? It was only a couple of grand, but for me, a couple of grand was everything. And they were like, well, we weren't involved in this project, so we can't actually help you, but the only advice is get an export out of Sage of how many days overdue they are, just send it to accounts. So I did that, and within half an hour I got the payment. Yeah. No one even replied to me. It's just a completely different world. Accounts just seen that they were overdue, thought we need to pay this immediately. The MD still hasn't come back on the email chain.
So I would say we had to go through a process of always understand what the other side of the table is doing, right? I think is something that you have to learn, and I didn't learn very well to begin with, and I have now. And that applies to what you're saying, is when you have somebody withholding payment for a specific reason, that's actually really, really good, because you can basically either say, no, you're wrong, oh God, I'm wrong, I'm so sorry, or you can just have a good old-fashioned fight in the metaphorical car park about it. What you definitely have that bites SMEs is bureaucracy. of getting money in. And most of the time, as you've just done, you hit the right data for the system. You got paid, right? So it's not strategic. It's just stodgy. It's just, and I think big companies, have a degree of, have many benefits, but they have that degree of you have to play the system. They're systems based. They're not as people based. And I would say that since we have worked on actually looking at how we have to work the system at each customer, work the system sounds inappropriate, like I'm doing something, how each person's account system works, we've actually noticed that our overdue invoicing has turned to basically absolutely zilch. And it takes, because you're doing what you're doing, you're very passionate about what you do, same with what we're doing, you always think that people are the same. But when you get into a bigger business which has a system behind it, sadly that passion has to be dampered down in the peripheral areas, and accountancy is one of those, sadly.
Yeah. Well, I think credit control as well, like the smaller business you are, you don't necessarily consider it as being that important, but good credit control is absolutely essential. So, you're going to be, you've just gone overdue, you're 7 days overdue, you're 14 days overdue. If you send those kind of regular emails, although you shouldn't have to do it, people should just pay on time. But if you do that credit control process and you do follow up, it does actually make a massive difference. So no matter how big or small you are, actually having a proper credit control process is absolutely essential.
Yeah, well, I started asking around people about payment terms. So then I started setting 30 days. But then of course, as soon as your cash flow is like choking, you're like, I can't wait 30 days. Yeah. So then you start ringing around the nicer customers to say, can you help me out? Yeah. And then last week, a recruiter said to me, we just work on 2 weeks and it just gets paid. But we're strict up front. If you want to work with us, it's 2 weeks. My concern has always been, I don't have the leverage yet. I'm not an established brand to go back to, I'm not going to name any of them, but any of the big guys in our field and be like, right, it's 2 weeks or it's pro forma. It's always been, 30 days always, it feels cheeky almost from me. But before that, I was just like, pay me when you're ready. The problem was, it goes into a system and they don't.
I think we can still get away with, maybe we were doing this, I think we still are. If it has a certain value, and I can't remember what we are on things like spares and things like that, but we used to have a system, if it's over a certain value, we want a percentage up front on 14 days, and then whatever, we're kind of on the residual amount, whatever you want, up to 90 days. Depending on your contract, and most of our customers are 60 days, I think, to 90 days, and that meant that you with that deposit, you'd make sure you got skin in the game, and I think we still do that. I mean, our transactions like that are minimal now because most of what we do is machine sales and service contract, which is almost standing order type transaction where people will pay for a 36-month service contract monthly. But we've never shied away from wanting a deposit, and I think it's quite a good way of people holding people accountable to actually, do they want what you're selling them as well? Because there's a lot of people that will place orders for stuff and then it doesn't happen, and then because you didn't deliver on it, you can't really charge for it. And with bits of metal, it's quite easy to have that argument. What you're doing, which is service based, I get that can be even worse.
Yeah, there's a couple of things in the deposit. I'm now seeing deposits because that does ease cash flow. It's
where I challenge that recruitment consultant. Actually, it's a great line, but it will be finite. At some point, they will have to adjust. You can't quite do that, but probably the sweet spot is deposit over a certain value, and then residual more akin to that customer's payment terms. That's you getting a return out of it and checking the process is serious, but them also still being able to work to their systems, which means you're more likely to have a sustainable relationship.
Yeah. There's also the sustainable cash flow of the monthly payments on the service contract. Yeah. That's the bit I've been missing from my business, is that, again, that self-deprecating mindset of, I don't have the leverage, I'm too small, I can't ask for payments monthly. It was always, let's get a PO, let's hope they pay, which is also a pain. Yeah. But then you're living hand to mouth, which is what I've just hit the past couple of months, is that I can't live hand to mouth anymore. Like, we need to find a way to move to monthly subscription of stuff. We've got all these other revenue streams that are going to come online at some point, but they're not saving me now. And right now I need my customers to be paying me hundreds of pounds a week each to then build a business off it. I can't rely on a 2-3 grand PO every couple of weeks that may or may not land, and then maybe overdue on. I can't live like that.
But Automate UK always gives you PO straight away, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. Aren't we great?
Right. Yeah. We all not come on here and talk about payment terms and then not be good at paying. Right?
I'm going to send this straight to accounts. What is Engineers Insight? So Engineers Insight is a free mobile app for engineers to have access to industry 24/7 from your phone. So I worked in manufacturing for 12, 13 years, got really frustrated with relying on print to find the latest technologies. So we came up with this newsfeed concept of all the latest products with the manuals, the application videos, CAD files, brochures. You can send inquiries, you can bookmark stuff so you're not saving on your laptop and it goes obsolete every time a firmware changes. Now there's jobs, so it gets updated every week. You can search keywords, you can search distances from postcodes, and you can apply. You just attach a CV from the files in your phone. And then the next one that's coming is training. So if all goes well, 2025 we'll be launching a central training calendar with the MTC training to allow an engineer to have access to everyone's training courses in one place. So you could book a robot course from any of the big vendors, a PLC course from any of the big vendors, multiple other vendors involved, and then you only raise one PO. So I think that's the quickest overview of Engineers Insight I could give. You ever been in a situation where cash flow has kept you up at night, worrying about the salaries and things?
I've been really fortunate that I personally haven't been through that in my business. Which, I always, so someone else has always managed to fill the void of things to be stressed and worried about, but fortunately, that's not something that I've had to endure at any point.
I have. Luckily, only once really badly. Between, it was just after I'd done the first MBO on Grunwald, we had, so that was 25, and then 2016, we had the Brexit vote not go our way. Because in essence, Grunwald is as much of a parts import business. Grunwald UK is as much of a parts import business as it is a packaging machinery business. So basically we had bought the business was doing all right, but it was very much hand to mouth, and then the phone stopped ringing off that result in June. Typical thing, uncertainty is the worst thing. And we got, I think you can go on YouTube and watch me on the PPMA stand in 2016, and you look at the fear in my eyes, because I was like that Saddam Hussein's interior minister. Everything's fine, there's nothing to see here, we're amazing, we're brilliant. And we were starting to really struggle. Now, bizarrely, I actually rose tint it a bit, because God, did we dig deep, and God, did it give us a kick up the arse. And actually, it led to a situation where it really forged Sam and myself, who'd worked together a load of time, and Catherine, who came in to do the accountancy side. It really got us a work ethic we stuck to now. But so I probably rose tint it a bit, but it was petrifying. It absolutely petrifying.
When you say work ethic, what does that actually mean? What were you doing? When you're faced with that adversity, because there will be people watching this that are very close to that situation.
If it ain't bolted down, there's no reason why you can't sell it. I think that's some easy stuff there. I think as well, it made us grow up. I think I was probably 2015 to 2016, I was probably cosplaying being a business owner rather than actually being a business owner. I maybe was starting to lose sight of a few things, that I was probably trying to be too corporate, and that gave us a hell of a shock. And you just go back to basics of, is there a route out of this? And luckily there was very quickly. is there people you can call on support of if it goes badly wrong, and then are you okay to have that conversation with them? That was the sales director at Grunwald Central, who was my mentor as well, so I could have that conversation with him saying, look, this is not looking great. What happens? And he was very much of, well, you know, Grunwald will stay in the UK and we'll support some people, it just may not be with you, you know, which is in some ways is a fair conversation actually, because you know at least the thing's going to continue. And then you go, well, actually, let's just go back to basics. So we just started ringing people like we'd never rung people before and say, we see you're low on spares, can we sell you some spares? We got really tight on making sure that we didn't have any project slip. Now we have very good project deliverance at Grunwald, but we were making sure that we were getting better at making sure that things were being site accepted. All the stuff that we were starting to, and it was very much my fault, we were getting a bit flabby on because I was cosplaying being a director of a business rather than actually running one. So we just did that, we just dug deep. And even now, there's a line between us as directors at Grunwald that we measure ourselves against, and we measure people when they come into a team, and it comes from that period. We have 3 criteria when we review our performance, the business performance and our people's performance. Would somebody drive a gearbox on a Friday afternoon to a customer in Aberdeen? Will somebody, regardless of their position, ask for a PO number? And will somebody ask for a bill to be paid? And we always sanity check that us as directors and the people that we have, and we have an amazing team at the moment, we always check that if we ask those 3 questions, they will do. And that came out of I'd lost sight of those 3 elements, which meant when the Brexit thing happened, really I was due to fail. And the fact that I was able to pull it out the bag and succeed off the back of it, you know, was my graft, but was luck. I had set myself up to fail. I was cosplaying being a director.
Yeah, I mean, not to that extent. We're much smaller. You know, my overheads are, you know, compared to an engineering business, almost nothing. But my overheads pays the mortgage. That's it. So like. Monday, I mean, let everyone in behind closed doors. Monday night, I mentioned to Alice just before we went to bed, which was ridiculous timing, that I'd been getting phone calls from a bailiff. Right, it's obviously HMRC just just send it over to this bailiff that his payment's overdue. And all I knew was that my accountant said a day or so before, oh, you owe £2,000 on PAYE. But when they chase you, just pay it. I had 1,300 quid in the account. I couldn't pay it anyway. So of course, she's on the ceiling as we go to bed. Well, you need to find exactly to the penny how much it is, and so I logged into the gateway. It's 3.6, which again, small numbers, but it's even worse because we had to find 700 quid when I was going to bed. The next morning, so like I managed to sleep okay, but then I'm driving to a meeting in the morning. I'm like, not like, you know, it's really in your throat at this point. I get to this meeting. It's a company that are due to have video. We just never agreed on a date. They sort of loosely said yes to the price. Never had an official PO. And I was just talking to her, and she went, "Just invoice me now. Like, we'll do it at some point. Just invoice me." So I invoiced it the second I got home, and the payment came, and it was like 3.8. So I could just ring HMRC and clear it. So it was like this sigh of relief. But now it's opened the conversation in the house of, well, why are we struggling every month?
Yeah.
Why are we struggling just to keep the house? Why not just downsize? Or because the problem was that the mortgage almost doubled when the rates changed, and we were like, we'll live with it. It's fine. We'll just cope. Now you're sort of struggling with the business. It's like, well, why has the personal life got to struggle? We've got a 2-year-old. He's not going to remember the house. We can move back to where we used to live, and you know, save £1,000 a month, and it's not that I've got to make £4,000 a month, it's that I make £3,000 a month out of the business.
You're going to put the right move advert at the bottom of the screen now.
Yeah, I would. But yeah, that's the sort of, it's a smaller situation, but it's a personal situation because I'm the only one that's financially in the business. I've got a co-founder, but he's not in the day-to-day, so he's not seeing the pain.
You ever had that feeling I think Thomas is there now, so I'll ask you, you ever had that feeling of why are the people around me in this crazy with me? Why are they following my story?
All the time. Yeah. But I think when you're in the early stages of running a business, you see the excitement and the it's a new thing and you want to grow and develop it, and it's a new opportunity, and you're kind of a little bit blind to the risks and the stresses and strains that will go with it, and you don't have the skills or the tools to do it at that point, and you learn very, very rapidly along the way, and that's the only thing that you can take out of going through this process at the moment, is that it does build a layer of resilience and strength within you that you can call on in the future. This will not be the last time that you're in a business that you'll struggle, but you'll handle it better every time, because you'll be able to reach back onto the experiences that you gained. And we can sit here and say, try and give you the benefit of our experience, but ultimately, at the end of the day, there's no substitute for going. Unfortunately, we're going through it, and you have to make the decisions that you need to.
You'll be a better person because of this.
Well, I'm not saying that. No, you probably won't be, but
well, it's going to be worse.
Yeah. No, it's. But you'll definitely have better tools to deal with this, with it. Any situation that comes up through running a business, every time you survive it and get through it, you're more able to go through it next time around.
It's giving me a new energy. Like I was saying earlier to James, suddenly...
Yeah, because I turned up on time.
We didn't want to get that in the video, did we? Suddenly it's like, it's a bit of a kick up the arse, isn't it? It's like, you really need to dig in to make the business work and pick up the phone again.
Yeah.
Because we went through a phase where I didn't really have to pick up the phone. We were the disruptor. Yeah. As soon as one of the brands was on, the other 3 or 4 competitors wanted to talk to me. Now we're already in the market. It's like, well, how do you go from the really small idea to proof of concept to a startup to now how do you scale it? That's the bit that I'm just waiting for the tipping point. But that tipping point hasn't come because I've took a nosedive. And now I'm like reevaluating and talking to a lot more people, a lot more business people, whereas before I was just in my silo.
That and to what Pete alluded to, I think there's a couple of points there. I think number one is the fact that you've automatically looked to downsizing the house is the right thing, rather than starting fantasising it, jacking it in and going to work for somebody else. I think that shows that, and the amount of thinking and the fact that you could see the cogs whirring on your TikTok video means that you're not doing this out of just charging bull. You're actually thinking about it. And the fact that you actually believe in your thing to the point that you're willing to go and live somewhere with a lower Zoopla score is actually a huge thing, right? A lot of people just charging bull, and they wouldn't be as open about it, and that's different, right? So there's that. But there's the other thing is, we don't talk about it enough, and we live in this fake world. I mean, we joke about Instagram. And everybody's got a Lamborghini and I'm an influencer for this, I've got a brand partnership for that. I mean, but we're intelligent enough people to filter that out. I think LinkedIn has a toxicity to it. And that is basically everybody uses LinkedIn to say how great it is, or they mean the hell out of stuff and it doesn't matter. And then the other thing is as well, is that there are too many, if you run your own business or you own your own business, I think sometimes you are treated a bit like a second-class citizen compared to somebody in the corporate world, okay? And that means that anybody feels that they can voice an opinion on running your business better. You know, stuff I've heard when we've been doing well of, don't you think you've answered to Flash? Why are you doing that? Is that not just a vanity project? When they don't know the hours, I think particularly on the US project, they haven't seen the hours that Sam, my ops director, and I have poured into seeing that if we do it in small chunks, we can do well in the US. So what you actually need to do is you need to find a world where people are willing to support you and making your head better, not just giving you advice that frankly you could read out of a GCSE business studies book. That's the network you need.
Yeah, that video on TikTok, it started off with like-minded people, all the comments were all good, and then it obviously reached a certain point where it was like fair game for anyone.
Yeah.
And then it was just fucking quit. Just you don't know what you're talking about, like just one after another, and you're like, it's that exact same people that will look at stuff on TikTok or Instagram and think they know how to run a business.
Yeah.
But they've never really had a proper job.
You go and look where I think you go and look at an orchestra play. Yeah. You don't sit there and go, I have just written down 7 points on how that violinist is going to be better. Yet to people who know business owners are too quick to basically start expressing opinion on how to run your business, rather than expressing opinion on how, actually, Tom, do you not think you ought to just pause and have a bit of a think about what you want to do? You've got to find a support network is more about investing in you rather than critiquing and thinking that they can run their own business. Because running your own business, for me, is it's as much nature as nurture. There has to be something in your genetics that means that you can pull it off. Now that is, for me, it's very simple. It's basically probably just been wanting to get out of the bed at whatever time you get out of bed. Let's not be all, who's the bloke with the Rolex and the Huel? Secret Diary of CEO?
Stephen Bartlett.
It's Stephen Bartlett. We don't need to be like him. We get out at 3. Let's have a kale smoothie and all that rubbish. But you need to be, whatever time that you get out of bed, you need to be in a position that you want to basically, I'm allowed to swear, that you basically kick the shit out of the world. You need that inherent feeling. You know that, right? And that doesn't exist in a lot of people. No, it doesn't mean that we're special. It doesn't mean we're better. But you have to recognise there is a natural talent to what you're doing, what you do, and what I do. And it's about making sure, just like any athlete, it's just about making sure that you find a network that athlete can be the best performing athlete it can be. I think owning and running a business is for those who pull it off well, or even those who pull it off averagely, is a hell of a natural talent.
Yeah, that grit, determination. Yeah, not everyone has it in them.
And, a huge proportion of businesses fail, right?
Yeah.
Having the resilience to go through those periods of time when you're not sure whether you are going to survive or not, and coming out the other side sets you apart from a huge amount of people. And I think it's very easy to sit on the outside and criticise, like James says. You can sit in the audience at, the amount of people that sit in the stands at a sports event, and the way they talk, you think, the way they talk, you think they were better than Pele or whatever, but they clearly aren't.
What's Pele do?
You're not a fan of kickball, are you? I'll try and find a different reference, but
is he well?
Certainly not.
Definitely not. No. It's so you need to surround yourself with the people who are going to question your motives, question what you're doing, why you're doing things. At least make you stop and think twice, so you don't become the bull in the china shop and charge into everything.
Yeah.
But people who are going to want you to succeed and support you and help you. I think TikTok, you're probably not going to find a huge amount of those people on there, maybe. But you will develop a network of people that will want you to succeed and that will support you.
Yeah. Mentally, how do you cope with the tough times?
Booze generally. No, definitely. Well, actually, funny, probably I did at one point. For me, the challenges that I found were, and the stress and anxiety I was around, fear of failure. I took over running a business in 2008 that had been going for 40 years, and things went absolutely fine for 3 or 4 years, and we were slowly growing. And then I kind of, right, we've got to go and find the next thing. We've got to try and evolve and develop and take the business forward. And that really drove me to go out and search out other things, and we found some great opportunities, and the business did grow pretty rapidly. During that period of time, it just felt like the whole thing was just spiralling out of control, because I'd gone from having X amount of turnover and X amount of employees to that being significantly higher with no other support network around me. So I was just running around trying to keep all these plates spinning. And it was, you know, on the outside looking in, this business is growing, it's developing, everything looks great. In reality, the toll it took to try and, you know, keep all those plates spinning, the relationships with my family and friends, and that kind of not fell by the wayside, but you know, were damaged because of the effort and the, you know, the intensity you put into your work. You just kind of, you know, you question why are you doing it, you know. So the only thing to do at that point is to actually be really open and talk to people about how you feel and explain the way, you know, explain what's going on. And dealing, for me, the only real way of dealing with those difficult times is to actually have an outlet, have someone that you could go and talk to. I was fortunate that I worked with a guy outside of our business who, you know, almost became my therapist once a month. And I'd go and vent and tell him how difficult things were and, you know, where I was struggling, what I was finding difficult. And literally I'd walk away from that just feeling a lot better because I just got it off my chest and shared it with someone else and they'd put perspective on it. And for me, that's always been the biggest thing. You automate all the people you made bored. You'd have that half a dozen times a year where you'd go and sit in a room with people and you had the opportunity just to get it off your chest, bottling things up, keeping it to yourself, not sharing, not explaining how difficult things are, being afraid to show vulnerability. They're all the things that will only make you feel worse. Being open, saying, yeah, do you know what, things are really tough at the moment. These are the things I'm struggling with. This is what I'm worrying about. Is definitely the best way towards not feeling so bad about it.
Yeah. James?
No, I was being fine. Right, so I was always very lucky that I had a support network at Grunwald. And really, so I started there and then MBO'd it once in 2015 and then MBO'd it with Sam and Catherine in 2018 to be in the business. So I was always very lucky that I had Catherine at home until she joined the business, so best of both. But then day to day, I had Sam, who I grew up through the business, and Sam and I are kind of the front-facing bit of Grunwald in the UK and USA at the moment. And I had a sales director in Anton out at Grunwald, Germany. He was the most incredible mentor. So I had the day-to-day support network. And I knew what I wanted to do. What I hadn't envisaged when we did the second MBO is that I then got a massive fear of failure towards them. And they were in it, they had skin in the game, they were the same, but I didn't quite compute that. So I went in 2018 when we got the business outright and I became MD. I went down this absolutely incredible micromanager, everything was an emotional response stuff. And even as it was coming out of my head, my mouth, I was like, whoa, where's this coming from? I went and got cognitive behavioural therapy for that one and just basically learnt to be a lot more process driven. So in 2018, I went and got and did that. And that meant that I was able to process, I was able to get calmer, and I was able to make clear decisions. And clear decisions for the good and potentially you'd see the bad. So for instance, we had a secondary business when I first bought it. We had the pot filling business, which was Grunwald. We had a labelling business. And I was able to make the decision that we and talk it through with Sam and Catherine that the labelling business and the pot filling business were too conflicting. We had to get rid of the labelling business. If I hadn't gone through that CBT process, I couldn't have got to that position to be able to discuss it with them. It wasn't my idea, it was a joint idea. So having that support network, and then it meant that this original support network I had at home, and then with Anton and Sam, it meant that I could really get the benefit of that going forward and still do today, even though Anton's retired. And then I think the other thing, if you want to be really open and honest, is that I had a bit of a weird situation last year where everything was okay. So 2023 was an incredible year, both at Grunwald and at PPMA to automate, because obviously we did the rebrand. But it was also a really weird year, so it was quite almost like operating on a trampoline. So if you look at the result at Christmas 2023, we turned PPMA into Automate UK, and Grunwald had sold in the UK and the USA more than it had ever done at that point. So the result looked great, but as late as November, the sales at Grunwald were pretty low because of the effect of the war in Ukraine and Liz Truss. And we flew closer to the sun on the rebrand than maybe we say. So the end result was really good, but the journey was odd. It was like tootling along in 20 miles an hour, then suddenly on both businesses it was 120 miles an hour. That left me in a situation in 2024 where everything's lovely, but something wasn't quite lining up. What that actually did is made me go and look right back to the beginning, and I realised I'm going to go bloody deep on this. I realised that I had a massive inherent fear of failure, or things that weren't going well being taken away from me straight away, going right back to my childhood when my mum died. And that meant that even though I'd never wanted that to define me, and I had a lovely childhood and stuff like that, I had this inherent thing in me that everything was too good to be true. And not only did I fear failure, I feared immediate failure. So for context, to put it out there, well, is that I went to school one Friday morning, and when I came back, my mum was dead. I mean, I wasn't there, but I was there. It was that abrupt. I mean, she had been ill for a period of time, but it was that abrupt. And I hadn't recognised that even when it was good, this fear of failure and fear of abrupt failure was causing an issue. So I got some, again, kind of CBT-ish. I went and spoke to somebody and went right back from there. And I would say that it took a while to kick in, probably into about Easter time this year. But I don't fear abrupt failure anymore. And I'm also realising, which I think you're discovering at the moment, what you're going on is that we are more in control than we think we are, and actually even failure is more progressive. I always thought, because of that experience as a teenager, that things could just be turned off, because it was literally that abrupt. So those will be the 2 points. Day-to-day support network I have been so lucky on. Even down to conversations I had with Sam and the owner of Grunwald yesterday, kind of about what I'm doing today, but not. You kind of it's in your purview. But that fear of failure that I had, that went right back to my childhood, was having a negative effect on me. So I think you cannot overlook what is required to make sure that you're the best you can be. And don't you ever see yourself as a complete character. If you like, my personality revolution was at 43. That's quite deep, that, wasn't it? I reckon you bring the dead mum up, that's probably about an extra 100, about an extra 100 likes, isn't it? I mean, we should say, for dark humour, there is a family joke that she's not dead, she lives on a farm, and we just still not found the farm.
God.
That was deep, wasn't it?
It was deep.
It was, yeah, thank you. Fear of failure is probably the big one for everyone, though.
Yeah, I'm fear of failure, imposter syndrome. Are you good enough? Are you worthy of doing the job? How do people perceive me? All those things will go through the mind of somebody who runs a business, anyone really. But it's kind of more exaggerated if you're running a business, because you put yourself out there as being the voice and the personality, if you like, of the business that you run. So, it will drive you, and if you can harness it in the right way, it becomes an amazing motivation. If you don't harness it in the right way, it becomes crippling. And fear of that fear will either inspire you or stop you moving forward. And learning and understanding how to manage that and how to channel it is massively important. I avoided making decisions, and I avoided doing things within the business for a period of probably 2 or 3 years, because I was so crippled by the stress and anxiety that I felt from growing this thing to a point where I thought it was all going to come crashing down around me, because I didn't feel like I had control of it, because it got too big for me, or whatever it was. And you know, fortunately, came through the other side of it after having, you know, a lot of very, very difficult and down times through that process. But I didn't want to fail at the end of the day, so it kind of, you know, it dragged me out the other side of it with a lot of support from the people around me. It was such a relief to get the business to a size that I could justify bringing in some other people to take some of the heavy lifting, and immediately the sense of relief of having 2 other directors in the business and go, God, I've got someone else that I can share this with, and someone else that has a vested interest in growing the business and probably feels the same way as I do about am I worthy of being in this position? Am I going to, you know, are we going to be good enough? Are we going to, you know, that was a huge relief. And to be fair, right, I really worry about people who run a business who didn't have any of that fear of failure. That was so confident of their own ability that they had no self-doubt or anything. A little bit of self-doubt to check yourself every now and again is not the worst thing in the world.
But they don't. They all have it, right? I mean, I even think about some of the people we have at customer bases who, you know, have sold out to bigger people or have become incredible. They just bury it deep, but you can see it in their eyes, can't you?
But I think it's the people that don't acknowledge. There are some people out there that genuinely don't have that, and they will fail. Because they don't have that introspection and that self-reflection or whatever to stop and think, am I really making the right decision?
Yeah, I don't think it's the actual failure that people are scared of. Maybe I'm talking from my own point of view, but it's the fear of people looking at you as a failure. That's always been my issue, of the outside perspective of what I'm trying to create.
I get that.
It's the first thing I thought of when we agreed we're going to sell the house. My first thought went to, what are my friends going to think? I've got this lovely house out in the countryside, it's, you know, but the reality of it is it's going to keep the business alive and the family happier.
Yeah, but your friends don't care that you've got this.
They also don't care.
They're happy for you if you can, but they don't. They're not friends with you because of it.
No.
And that's the thing that you've always got to stay grounded to. And to be perfectly honest, anyone who judges you for, don't get me wrong, if you're an arse, then you deserve to be judged for certain things. But you know, anyone who judges you for trying something, going out there and having a go and it not going according to plan, don't waste any time worrying about what they think would be my, you know, my what you feel, what drives you, staying true to yourself. That bit's important. How other people judge you, who, to be perfectly honest, aren't necessarily in a position to do that.
But that's easier said than done. This is
of course it is.
I mean, this is where Pete and I kind of appear like the 2 old guys at the Muppets, right? What are they called?
Stadler and Waldorf.
Yeah, you know, it takes a while to get there, but there's no reason why you shouldn't be, as a side hustle, pressing the accelerator pedal a bit harder on getting there, right?
Yeah.
Should we end on a high note?
Go on.
Because we've been talking for an hour about how difficult it is. But what's been your highlights?
So the biggest thing for me is that when, you know, I mentioned about that we brought other people into the business into a senior level, that growing the business grows opportunity for other people, right? So all of the stresses and strains and anxieties, clearly it's been rewarding for me as well, right? But the biggest satisfaction I got out of it was providing a platform for other people to grow and develop and seeing them flourish. So setting up a business and seeing how it can positively impact other people, that's been, without a doubt, the biggest reward.
It's amazing. We probably ought to do another hour on how amazing it is, right? It's amazing. Before I even look at kind of anything to automate, I just look at Grunwald. I wouldn't know where to start in terms of things we sold, the way that we've worked with the German factory to get a product that's a little bit more anglified in terms of how the machines work and how they're easier to operate. to the fact that I've got working relationships with Anton and so okay, Anton's retired now. That go back to 2009. To hitting targets, to developing the team, and I think sometimes if you were to tell me what my favourite bits of this year have been, they're actually not performance based. I went and sat on and did an installation with our installation team just before Easter, where I really was the skivvy, right? But over a weekend. And I was sat in the back of our crew cab van on the Saturday night with my team, which has the same passion and the same work ethic at me. And they, whilst I'm done talking about work and just want to go back to the hotel, they are automatically talking about how they're going to approach tomorrow and taking the piss out of themselves, taking the piss out of me. I think of probably, for reasons I don't quite know, Sam and I drove to central Germany rather than flew, and seemed like a good idea. It took about 9 hours, but basically we had a 9-hour journey in June just listing what we'd done, and you go, oh my god! And then even this week, I've seen our vans on the road, and I go, that's us. Where did that come from? And I had 2 engineers who've just done a service visit in California and Texas, who immediately got off the plane and drove to our office to debrief because there was so much they wanted to tell us, good and some bad as well. And that we have a culture in our place now that we didn't even have to push there. Their immediate reaction was to get off the plane, not go home, but to get in our car park, a bit of Lynx Africa on the armpits so they didn't, to freshen up a bit, and get in and commit. So I would say it's the people side for sure, to be able to sit here, and it's taken a while and there's been some success and failures, but to have a team of people who work with me, from having 2 good, incredible business partners, but the team as a whole, who have the passion and culture and ethic that I do, is just the most unbelievable pleasure.
There is a certain freedom in running your own business as well, right? There's things that hold you back and things that frustrate you, but ultimately being, the master of your own destiny in that way, I think that's what drives a lot of people to do it in the first place. And it really is that stuff is what gets you out of bed in the morning. You look forward to what you can do, how you can take the business forward, how you can drive things, and the freedom that you have to operate and make decisions swiftly, act on things, rather than the bureaucracy of working through a larger organisation. If you can set up a small business and it can sustain you, it really, it's an amazing lifestyle to lead.
Yeah.
To your passion project to be the thing that you get income off.
Yeah.
That vocation job thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you've got more chance to have a vocation doing what we're doing than it's a job at a corporate, even if it's the same thing.
Yeah.
If I went and worked for one of the exact same pot filling equipment, and I went to work for one of the larger conglomerates who've got it, the passion would go out of it.
Of course it would.
And the passion is the biggest kind of non-taxable benefit that you can get and reward out of it.
Yeah.
Mm. How do we close with a call to action? What do you want the viewers to take from this?
Come to the PPOA show the 22nd of September to the 24th. Parking's still bloody expensive. We can't control that. Go on, do it sensible.
Do it sensible. I don't know. I think to realise that no matter how stressful you find running your business or working, in any role, there's loads of other people out there who are going through exactly the same thing. Don't bottle it up. Don't keep it to yourself. There are plenty of people out there that will be more than willing to talk to you and support you and help you. Being proud and keeping it all internal is a route that leads nowhere.
Yeah.
Make sure you routinely, this does sound a bit secret diary CEO, right? Make sure you routinely list out what you've achieved. do that. I've started doing that. It does feel a bit kind of. This podcast is sponsored by this energy drink, right? But do that. That's a good thing. Cause even because you've achieved a lot. If you've got to a position that you find your accounts once, you've achieved a lot. The other thing is making sure you've got the best support network around you, and that's where I have been incredibly lucky. And making sure that in any given situation, there is automatically 4 or 5 numbers, doesn't need to be any more, on your mobile phone that you can pick up, and they will support you, not give opinion on your business, and they can get up to speed quickly is crucial. Frankly, thanks to Automate Board, with my director team at Grunwald and with the Automate Board, I've been lucky in having that. Find that. That is so important. And then if you've got the skill set to do it, give it a go, because it is brilliant.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you both. I appreciate your time. Thanks for being so open and honest. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of value in here for Automate members, but then also it's not even just people in our industry.
Yeah, we're not bothered about them.
Yeah, I know.
No, but you're right. You're right.
But yeah, there's hundreds of thousands of SMEs that struggle every day that don't talk about it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
thank you both.